Hello guys, it's me here. I decided to do a review that is quite interesting, and it's been a while, but I decided to do it because I basically am running out of some things, but it is, so yeah, let's get that out of the way. So this is not going to be an ordinary review how I would actually do it, although this is my first one. We're gonna do one where it's actually a very awkward one, but I will do it. So, here it is. So I got this package that is from, AliExpress. I saw these knockoff, Ultra Kaiju figures, which I wanted to see how they would feel and how well made they are if they were knockoffs. So I basically got 3 of them for my birthday. I'm not explaining what birthday it is, but I just got it. So, yeah. So now I have 3 figures now, so I just remove them. One of them, there's 2 that is kind of funny because I actually have to assemble the tail, and I find it clever how they packed it because, like, here's one here that is a knockoff of a real toy, but for some reason they took the tail apart. It's a knockoff version of the deluxe Tyrant, or the Spark Doll one. However, he doesn't look like much because he's been repainted, but it is like the similar mold, although for some reason his tail is like torn apart, not in a way that is broken, but it was in a way they wanted to cleverly pack it, which I actually find interesting because because when I was ordering this, I thought he was going to come in a box, but no. He came in like a small package, so yeah, but since his tail is separate, you have to attach it like this, and there you go. Unfortunately, the articulation part was ruined, because now you know what articulates. There's one more I have to do, and, but I'm not gonna, because it's gonna be harder to do, it looks like, but I'll be back. Okay, there we go, I assembled it. So, this is Tyrant here, known as the Despot, or I call it the Monster Frankenstein, because he's made up with different parts of different monsters. I don't know why, but he is a little bit crooked. We got Vakishim here, who is not just an ordinary monster, he's also a Choju from the Ace series, in Ultraman Ace, but yeah, he's an interesting one. I noticed that he looks like a knockoff of some other one, but I don't think he is, because he looks a little bit different. Then I have this one, which I'm not so sure if it's a knockoff of, and I think it's just its own, is this one here called Brocken, who is not too well known, but he is a Choju, and how do I know he's well known is because he has the roar of Titanosaurus from Godzilla. But we'll discuss that when I get a review of him separately. For now, I'm just gonna see how bad are these knockoff Ultraman figures. So the first thing is the scaling. So the scaling on these look good, although it's only from Vakishim to Brocken. In real life, Brocken is like 63 and he is 65. So this looks perfect to me, even though you would think he should be bigger. No, this is actually accurate. I would have thought so too, but no, I got it wrong. I even made one in Minecraft, but it's a long story. Now for Tyrant, the size is not accurate, however, for Tyrant. But I didn't want to get a smaller version of it because it looked quite ugly, so I decided to get this one that is based on the, and he looks a lot better. I mean, especially his tail. His tail is supposed to be long like that because it's basically a king crab's, but we'll explain it later. Especially when I get king crabs, because I do have 3 more of these coming, so it'd be like 6 figures. Although the 3 of them, however, are Chojus, like they're the terrible monsters, but we'll discuss that later. Now, I'm not going to explain the articulation because this is just a mixed bag thing. Although, I'm only going to do it once, so far, the feel of it, like on this one here, despite his look, it actually feels quite good. It doesn't feel terrible, it doesn't feel very, like, it doesn't feel very delicate or anything. It feels quite robust. However, I'm not gonna bother messing around with it though, but it does, like, if you drop it on the floor, it should last, so it should be good. But yeah, it does feel quite lasting, this one here. Now for this one, I'm not so sure why, but these two figures are actually quite hard. I can kind of squish this one, but it's not that great. This one, I can kind of squish, and actually, I can squeeze the back, which I don't know why, but yeah. So, these two seem to feel very good, and their paint job also feels good, like the feeling of the paint actually feels quite robust. Although it's on this one, this one feels like it's like that type of, it's like spray painted, but it's not that type of spray paint that's like quite bad or anything. So far, these two figures feel okay. For Tyrant, I'm not saying it is, but it looks like it has been spray painted, but it doesn't look that bad though, or it doesn't feel bad so far. Actually, from what I can tell, this one feels more durable. Like these toys, I think they're just as durable as the real McCoy versions, even though they're like from AliExpress, and you would have thought they're so cheap. They were cheap by price, and they were free shipping, but the durability is quite good for what you're paying for. So, yeah. This one, for some reason, is squishy. He's a lot squishier. Hold on. Let me squeeze him. Yeah, he's a lot squishier. But they do feel quite good. And, like, the paint job, I'm not too sure about Tyrant, but it doesn't feel terrible, though, either. So, it shouldn't be, like... Obviously, it's gonna chip because of the corners, but it shouldn't be that bad or anything. I don't know why, but his legs... Now, his legs are supposed to be painted like this, even though it kind of looks like it's been scratched, but it doesn't look... I mean, I think what they were trying to do was they were trying to give it like a textury rough look, like a battle damage, so maybe that's why, but I don't think it's supposed to be a scratch. So, now this one I forgot to mention was funny because I actually had to assemble the tail and the head, but assembling the tail part was harder. Now, as far as AliExpress, should I recommend it? Well, if you want to get it in a cheaper price or in a way that you like sometimes knockoff toys, I would actually recommend it. Nowadays, some figures of like the Ultra like series, like even 500 ones, are starting to get limited to where they are no longer being reproduced or remade. So it's quite actually nice that AliExpress is kind of making these figures. I do like how on some of them they may look like knockoffs, but they do feel like they were made on their own and not really copied. I just googled this, and it turns out that the articulation is the same, but the design of how it is looks different. His spikes seem to be a little bit rounder, from what I can tell. On the other one, it was more sharper, but he still looks like a Vakishim anyway, so even though these are knockoffs, should I recommend it? Yes, I do. So, I mean, for this, I mean, it doesn't have to be these monsters here, but, I mean, because most people know about Tyrant, if you want a Tyrant, but you can't get the real version, you could just get this knockoff one. However, when you get the knockoff one, just make sure, and this is your choice, just choose a color you want, because there are different variants of this, but they are the same figure. The Tyrant I don't recommend, and they have a knockoff version of it, is the smaller one. I wouldn't recommend the smaller one. The smaller one just sucks. And I forgot the scaling. Here's an example of how big they are. Hold on. Now the sizing of these are actually quite interesting. Now, I'm gonna just back them up in a way that I don't get them, but you'll see. It's gonna be quite big, but it's because of Tyrant. I'm gonna compare it to an Ultra Hero first. Here's the original Ultraman. I actually only have two. Now, unfortunately the scaling is not right for this dude here. He should be actually just the same size or even a little bit bigger, but from the feeling of it, he does feel bigger than a Spark Doll, which I'm gonna just compare it to, even though he's not, because he doesn't have a hexagon thing or whatever. But yeah, for an Ultraman, if you don't care about the size, he doesn't look bad, but if you care about size, what are you gonna do? That's Brocken. However, the Tyrant is perfect. It's gonna be hard to tell, but if you look, this is perfect. Because if you look, if you didn't know, any Ultraman is about 40 meters tall, but Tyrant is like 62 meters tall, or 63, or whatever. So this is a perfect scaling, actually, even though it's a knockoff. And keep in mind, this is actually the real one. So if you look, it is. Oh, I forgot to mention, for Vakishim, I don't know if it's because of this particular Ultraman, he's taller, even though he's from the 500 series, but it doesn't look as bad. Although I do have a smaller one, and it's Ultraman Jack, who actually was from the same era year, the 70s. Actually looks better with Jack, because from what I can tell, Jack seems to be shorter. I don't know if that's me, but he seems to be shorter, but this looks better, actually. Yeah, I think Jack works better with these figures than Ultraman Hayata. So, yeah. Although, what about Kaiju, though? Here's Sedora for an example, or the size of them. Now, I'm not exactly sure. I don't remember the size of Sedora. Although Brocken, to me, seems to be a little bit taller than Sedora, but it's very hard to notice. For Tyrant, he's definitely taller. I think, yeah, the size of Vakishim is actually more accurate. So I think sizing with this, and keep in mind, this is like, I don't know, 6 or 5 inches tall, like 6.5 inches. So that's pretty good in my opinion, considering he's a figure. Or what about another Spark Doll? However, this particular one is not a, this one doesn't have a life scan thing or anything. For Brocken, he's perfect. For Vakishim, he's perfect. And for Tyrant, he's perfect as well. And as a bonus, I have some airplanes here that I thought it'd be nice to compare. I'll bring it second. I gotta finish. Now, just for curious scale, I do have these brand new micro machines that are like very tiny cars. However, for the scaling for Optimus Prime is actually interesting. For the car, it's good. Now, for like tiny jets like these, or if you're using it for fighting or whatever, they actually look very accurate and good. Or if you want, you could use some airplanes. Like, here's this small Air Canada 747, and it looks interesting with it. Although it probably looks better with Tyrant. Here's a smaller one, even though it looks big. Actually goes well with it as well. So, yeah. So, the scaling for these figures are not bad, and the durability of it is not bad. So, for these I would actually give it a 9 out of 10. The only thing I have is that the details may not be as good, but this is like a mixed bag thing. But overall, like, the scaling and how they are is actually quite fantastic. And should I recommend AliExpress for buyers? Absolutely. However, you do want to be careful because there are some items that are scams, but most of them, in my opinion, are not. So just try to be careful there. But if so, when you get these figures, they actually are quite good. And considering of how one of them is a copy, it actually came out quite nice. So yeah, and we'll discuss these later though. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.